We are Brightside Home Theater.
Hey, home theater nerds. Welcome to the Brightside Home Theater Podcast. A home theater podcast. It's all about the experiences, the sights,
the sounds,
the scenes.
Steve, I'm so frazzled. I didn't know if I should be pushing the button, waiting for you. I was
Well,
I didn't even have it queued up. Coming in hot again.
I like to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what did I text you a little while ago? I might be there early. I'm coming in hot though. And I'm like, what did I get you? A minute early, maybe, if that.
Yeah,
and it's like just trying to set up. But yeah,
well,
thank
of course,
you everybody for waiting. And look at the chat's already flying.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny. We nearly got sucked into our post-show discussions before the show.
Yeah,
and just start the show an hour and a half late. It'll be fine.
Good night.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Enjoy the show.
There's people waiting. We can actually say this is like actually filmed before a live studio audience, kind of, really.
Yes. We just need a laugh track.
No, actually, do we have one of those? No, the closest we
have
got
an
is
applause track. Yeah.
That should be played for every dad joke we do. That was not good. Oh
man. So yeah, how are you, buddy? You okay?
As we previously discussed. Thank you.
Yes.
I just pulled a Tom Andrew. He did that to me once in a show we were recording. He goes, "Why do you ask that? We just talked for a half hour." I was like, that was awesome. We did not talk for a half hour. You do know how I'm doing. I'm doing great. I'm busy. Things are going. And how about you, Steve? We never did actually get to you. This is new information to me. How have you been this week?
I'm okay. Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's been an interesting week. Been busy again at work. Crime never sleeps, so it seems. So it's been kind of busy. And then when I'm not doing that, it's assessment season. So if I'm not at the day job, I'm then, doing assessments at university and all the rest of it. But luckily, I have had some time in the theatre this week. So I've got some surprisingly different things to talk about this week. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it's going to be fun, including some stuff that we never talked about because I think it kind of just passed us by, but we probably should have done. So I'm
home theater or birds and the bees stuff?
Well, that too. Yes, looking for input. Yeah,
I could guide you in the right direction. You're looking for an input, but
it's really awkward.
Yeah,
but
anyways.
That's fine.
John?
Hi, John.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
John just drove off the road. He's like, "Wow, they're really going there already."
Yeah. So it's been some interesting stuff. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that tonight. It's going to be cool to get your impressions of certain things that I know you've seen, not this week necessarily, but I know you've seen, and to get your kind of opinion on them. So, and we might stir a little bit of controversy. We shall see.
Or controversy.
One of the controversy. Do you know what? That is one word I don't know how to properly say. I don't know if it is controversy or controversy.
As long as I understood what you were saying, you nailed it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like aluminum and aluminium. I know what you're talking about. But
yeah. What? Garbage, trash, trunk, boot.
Yeah.
We've got all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Gas, petrol.
Yeah, exactly.
Tomatoes, tomatoes.
Yeah. Like the first time we ever spoke, like you warned me, like, let me know if you don't understand. I'm like, I can infer from context, and you didn't say anything that was that crazy. I don't think I've spoken to anybody that I was like, what?
Yeah.
At least not in English, regardless of the version of English.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I was nervous when we first started chatting about, because one, I talk quickly when I get excited, and two,
you and me both.
It's like you then use vernacular, use slang, and and then you can sort of run away with it. I think the closest we've come is last week when we talked about Dolly Bird.
Yeah.
Which I think you're like, what?
Oh yeah, exactly. I was like, I couldn't. Yeah, that one was. But yeah, it's like that's the whole idea of Takeover Tuesdays too. is to get people in and talk about just anything, right? And get people loose and have fun. And it's another one of those tangents I never thought I'd be doing. And I mean, I've got a couple of, speaking of it, we did not rehearse this at all, but I got emails here from today's Takeover Tuesday that I thought were fairly, I got to read this one.
Go for it.
It's from Mark Hader, and I'll read it again on Takeover Tuesday this month too, because I know some people listen to one or the other, not all of them. But I actually got 2 emails regarding this, and I'm not gonna mention the other email because the listener asked not. This isn't for Takeover Tuesday consumption. But I thought it was a great email, and I'd like him. He knows who he is. He should know by my description right now. Get in touch with me and let me know, because I'd love to read these 2 together. But here's part of what Mark was saying. He's like talking about Takeover Tuesday shows. You were talking about the evolutions and mentioned the SVS trade-up program. I had completely forgotten about that, so I gave SVS a call to look into it. Back in February 2023, I bought a pair of Prime Pinnacles and an Ultra Center during one of their outlet sales. At that time, I really wanted the Ultra Towers, but didn't feel they fit very well. I was wishing they had another slightly smaller Ultra Tower option, so I ended up getting the Prime Pinnacles instead. And for the record, the Prime Pinnacles sounded great. Anyway, I was pleasantly surprised when SVS said they would give me exactly what he paid for the Prime Pinnacles and the Ultra Center after having them for about 15 months. I had the original boxes, and what I had to pay was the shipping on the new Ultra Evolutions and return shipping on my existing speakers. I ended up getting the Ultra Evolution Titans and Center. Like I said earlier, the Prime Pinnacles sounded great, but the Titans are next level. The biggest noticeable difference is when listening to 2-channel music. I have a Marantz AV7706, and when listening to music, I use the Pure Direct mode, which disables room correction, and I run the Titans full range without my subs. They sound amazing. When watching movies, the difference I hear most is a fuller, bigger, present sound, if that makes sense. The bass with the Titans is unreal, so I'd have to think the Ultra Pinnacles will be a step up. Pinnacle Evolutions will be a step up, and if you have 5 of them in your new theater, you won't be disappointed. And he says, I've attached a few pictures, and here we go. I forgot to even add these to the... Bear with me, please.
Your call is important to us.
Yes, exactly. So here's the pictures that he sent. So you can see the Titans right there. And I've attached a few pictures. So there's the Titans on either side. Let me see if I can, not that way. Easy for me to do. There you go. That's the front view in the center channel there. And that's what they look like from the side. You see that curve. Pretty cool. Really, really nice. So that's the middle of the road. This is what they had set up at Expona. Is the Titans were in the room for home theater, and then they had the Pinnacles in the room for 2-channel, and that's pretty much. And like what Mark had done there, what he was talking about and saying about the running them in Pure Direct mode, that gets into the idea, like that entire conversation Rob H and I had, where you turn off processing when you're listening to 2-channel, and then you go, and then let these things breathe, let them do their magic when you're listening to 2-channel, and then home theater, you're going to manipulate it for the surround and stuff. Hey, thanks, Mark. There he is. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thanks for the email. Thanks for the pictures. I can't wait to get 5 of those. And yes, in a home theater environment, you're going to be, I don't want to say, it's not dumbing down. That's what I was going to say, but it's not. You're utilizing and managing the bass differently. But these things have so much bass. One of the things I'm looking forward to is, like everybody knows, I want a Trinnov someday, and they're waveforming. The more full range you have, the better. And the way that works, that's what you're looking for. And the extension you can get in these, it's only going to help that. And I'd rather have it and not need it, like meaning bass extension or whatever, because you can always pull back. But what if you need it and you don't have it? Who knows where tech is going to go in the future? I don't think I'm going to need it. It's one of those things. And in other emails and other comments I've heard, like, I've said right from the jump, I don't need this. This is just what I want. I just want the look of that. I just want to see it. And it's going behind walls. But I just, but who knows? You never know where tech's going to go, especially after talking to Ben last week. It's like, it's crazy the stuff that's going to happen. So, but yes, thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Yeah. So, and I did get another one. Let me see. It might pop up this email here. That was this. There it is. Steve got his shirt. Got that one just before we went on today, or I saw it just before we went on. Steve's got his shirt. There we go. Thanks, Steve. Be wait for plenty of eye rolls and comments from people. Home theater. What's that? What do you do with that? I got a sound bar.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be testing out the reach of the podcast come the end of June. I've just had it confirmed earlier this evening that we are going to Glastonbury again. Mm-hmm. So that's the music festival with 150,000 people. I dare say I'll be wearing this shirt and wandering around. So we will see once again whether we can be recognized. Yeah, we can get recognized last year. We'll see what happens this year.
But you've been recognized since then.
I have in
other places. So
yes. Yeah.
Cool.
So who knows? We will see.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's see.
Talking to the chat. I better say hi.
Oh, what do we got? Yeah, let's get to the chat.
Yeah, fine. Now, Mikey Schramm was first in. There is no doubt about this. Because I saw that he was in. Yeah, it was like 22 hours ago. He put a comment out. Yeah, pretty much.
And it's gone now. Okay.
Yeah, and I applauded that because he was like, it's first, but mine's there and his is gone. So I don't know what's happened there, but
I don't even see yours now.
There it is. Yeah,
I go all. You're showing it, but on mine I can't scroll back far enough. I got Paul Hurt at 434. That's as far back as I can go.
There you go. So Mikey was first, albeit mildly cheating 22 hours ago.
Well, how's it cheating? I didn't tell him.
Well, it's very, very early. He hasn't stayed in since then. So
is that like saying you want to race too fast?
Yeah, that'll do.
I was like, you were just too fast. Yeah, that's
just too quick. Yeah,
you're too quick. You're supposed to take longer to do that race.
Yeah. So Mikey's in now anyway. He's back in. Brockstar's in. Paul Hurt's in. Dom is in. And we've got, the whole gang is here. We've got, because, Dom and Paul and Mikey and that were chatting backwards and forwards till I joined in. Steve Att's in, obviously, as well. Showing off his new shirt, I hope. Marcus Beebe, Andrew Panner's in as well. Hi, Andrew. Captain AC3's in.
Nice.
I know I saw Jordan had popped in.
Say Andrew Pana.
Pana. Yeah, Van Gool's
Andrew.
In, of course.
Yeah.
Yep. Fred's in. Hey, Fred, as always.
Hey Fred. There you go.
Ariel Alanis is in again as well. Good to see him. Say Dom's in. Jan Hextra's in. The world is in. The world and his cat.
Yeah.
Mark Galliano. New guy. Hi,
maybe.
Mark.
That sounds new.
Yeah.
That sounds new.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, Mark. Good stuff. Everyone and anyone.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's very, very busy. Bill McAllister's in, so I've just seen Bill's in, and you put up Mark Hader as well. So the world's here. The world is here. Jump right in, people. The water is warm.
Yeah, you haven't said that in a while.
It's got to be done.
Exactly.
Ooh, are we coming out swinging with that one? Are we? Wowzers!
I was thinking, what do you think? It's like that's
the
go
only
for
one.
I mean, I have a couple myself that are different, and from yours, we have one that's the same, which I'm sure everybody, and then you have your these. We got a couple of Star Wars entries. We've got a couple of other 80s entries, kind of, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Are we doing this one today, or is that just
no? That's just that's
okay.
Yeah. Did I put that in the thing? Did I?
Yeah, it is.
Did I put that in the shed? Sorry. Oh gosh. Sorry.
That's all right.
I tell you what, I'll delete that because I'll.
No, I know when not to put it up.
I'm sorry.
For anybody doubting that we do no show prep.
Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh. Sorry, man. I didn't mean to drop that in there. It
No,
only
that's
arrived
okay.
earlier today. I haven't
That's
seen it yet.
okay.
Oh, that's for next week.
Yeah. That's okay. Now you got everybody intrigued. All right. Yeah, we'll come out swinging with this one.
Okay.
So I think
Have
this
you
one,
seen it?
or no. No, no, no.
Probably for the best.
That's what I'm saying. All right. Let's let everybody in on it.
Yeah.
All right. You ready? Yeah,
Oh,
everybody.
yeah.
Thank everybody, Patreon, everything. Thank you very much. If you want to support the show monetarily, go to the show links. It's down there. It's like you see how much we care about that. We just love to talk.
We do.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, here we go.
Okay, so
So great.
this is already kind of this movie's already gaining some notoriety, and both notoriety and notoriousness.
Yeah.
Kind of spelt the same, but of both. So this is Under Paris, the Netflix on 4K Dolby Atmos HDR, the full works on Netflix. Now, this has to be seen if you're going to see it. You need to see it quickly because there is a copyright claim going on in France at the moment. This is a French movie.
It's
and there's
got
a copyright-
worse.
Well, yeah.
Like the situation, I'm saying.
Yeah, well, there's a copyright claim, and if successful, then this will get removed pretty quickly, I imagine. So if we talk about it and you think, yeah, that sounds kind of up my alley, then you're going to want to see it quickly because it may go at any moment. And it's really the only reason I watched it, because I thought, well, it's mildly intriguing, so I need to see it. Otherwise, it'll disappear. So Under Paris, it is. Now, we talked last week about creature features and how much I love them. And, and a good creature feature is just my bag, and it's, my sort of film. So this is a movie about, Deej, brace yourself. We did have a short text conversation, didn't we, about the
Yes,
wording of that synopsis, but it's and I now
sent
know
it
what
to
you
you,
meant.
remember? But yeah, we'll get to that part. We'll get to that part.
So the movie is a group of scientists are in the North Pacific. Okay, North Pacific. Okay, there is an attack by something, and then subsequently this something turns up in the River Seine in Paris.
Of course.
From the North Pacific to the River Seine in Paris, saltwater creature, freshwater creature, for reasons. It's just like, don't ask, because we're not going to tell you anyway.
Nope.
And so it just rocks up, and they try. I mean, it's crazy and stupid, and just. But you either, I think at that point, you either turn it off and just decide, you know what, no, or you just go, right, forget it. Let's just see. Yeah, exactly that. That's it. That should be playing throughout this.
So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Man, I feel like I should salute, which is giving it more respect than it needs. So that if that synopsis doesn't make you go, I've got better things to do, then you're fine. Then give this a watch. Now, it's a French movie. It's in French. There are subtitles, which I will come back to in a minute, because I had an issue with those for the very first time on Netflix, which we'll come back to.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in French, it's in subtitles. And what's odd about the movie is when you normally watch a subtitled film, generally, in my experience, they are movies in a foreign language that know these movies are going to travel. And I think, I mean, you can tell me what you think, Deej, but I think they change the dialogue and they deliver it differently to enable subtitles and people reading it to keep track of it and catch up with it.
Yep.
This movie doesn't do that. This movie just carries on regardless, and the subtitles, I think, struggle to catch up with it.
Couldn't keep
And the other
up,
thing that it does, which is irritating and was irritating from the beginning, is if there is any kind of signage on the screen, anything at all, the subtitles move. So if you're watching it to 185 production, so it fills your screen, and most of the time the subtitles are at the bottom. Okay, they're over the image, obviously. But when there's any kind of signage and to give you an example, there is a divers masks at the beginning because they're in the water, and the divers masks have the depth and the direction, and the oxygen remaining on the screen, and the subtitles then go to the top of the screen. So you're like doing this and that and this and that and that. So that's irritating as well.
And they're
but anyway,
disappearing too fast.
well, the dialogue at times is being delivered because there are some quite, obviously dramatic sequences where there's lots of people talking, and the subtitles are then just going bang, 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 and so it's odd. And the problem that I encountered was is that every now and then I got a little skip in the frame rate. It would sort of judder for like about half a second, and then on it went again. And I think it's the subtitles because, of course, Netflix, they're not baked in. They do them as it runs, and so it was causing little skips. It happened sort of 4 or 5 times during the film, which was mildly irritating. And it hasn't happened on anything else before or since, and it didn't happen with Godzilla -1 and all the other subtitled movies I've seen on Netflix, but it did with this, and that's kind of what I think was the issue. It was strange, but anyway, so the movie is bonkers, and not in a good way. It is very, very silly, and I mean, and not only do these creatures, I mean, does it say on the? Yeah, all right. So sharks. It says sharks. We know there's sharks. So not only do this shark and sharks, just appear in fresh water from the other side of the world, literally, but they also can grow really quickly and they breed really fast, and it's just foolish, very foolish. Anyway,
bunny rabbit sharks.
Yeah, well, yes, yeah. It should be some sort of more soft porn sharks than anything else. It's it's all a bit. There should be a sort of bow chicka wow sort of soundtrack, but we don't get that. Hello,
that
John.
Has nothing to do with the gestation period, though. It's like bunny rabbits are just quick. Yeah. It's like not the amount of time they're doing it.
It's fine. Well, there you go. This is a deleted scene, Steve.
Where's the show gone? Let's Google the gestation period
and goodbye,
of a shark.
Yeah, well, it's not this quick. Okay, so the story, as I say, is ludicrous and just silly. But if you get beyond that, that's fine. Now, in terms of the home theater side of it,
much like this show.
Yes, no, that's fine. That's all good. Looks and sounds great.
Yeah.
Now what is good about it, and probably would be the only reason I'd suggest anyone subject themselves to this, is
after all that you're bringing this now. You should have opened with that, because I think you lost a lot of people.
Like, yeah, they've all turned up.
A couple people I think said canceled their Netflix.
Well, there you go. That's it. We'll get letters. We'll get a cease and desist from Netflix. So now luckily it looks, in terms of any shots without CG in, look fantastically good. And the opening in the North Pacific, so you've got the beautiful blue water, and there's lots of trash on the surface. It's making a statement about oceanic debris and everything else. But that looks amazing, and it's really, really nice. And there are some establishing shots of Paris, and there are some river shots when they're moving up the river that look beautiful. I mean, it's colorful. It's razor sharp. It looks great. And the audio is decent as well. Again, anything underwater, of course, lots of bubbles and movement of the water and everything else. So it looks and sounds really good until you get your CGI. And of course, with shark movies, it seems in particular, CGI can be a real problem. And with this, at times, it's like it's animated. It's like it's kind of someone's, forget Sharpie on a shark. I'll take that any day of the week, compared to, because at least that's real. That's something tangible. There are a couple of shots in this that look like it's something out of Looney Tunes. And look, it's going to be a budgetary issue. I get that. But, it is 2024. And we should really have solved all this by now, because I will say to you things like, we were talking in the chat, Paul Hurt and I earlier, about films like The Shallows, which is a 2016 movie, and the CG in that's better than in this. Things like Deep Blue Sea. They used a mixture of practical and CG in that, but the CG in that's better than in this. And even a movie like Bait, which is an Australian movie about a shark in a supermarket, is still, but I'll forgive that. There you go. That'll show you the depth, if you'll forgive the expression, I'm willing to go to. to enjoy the movie. I could go along with that, but that's more plausible than a shark in fresh water. And so, it's fine.
A shark that needs to be in water, even though it's
Yes.
not salt water, is more plausible when it's in a grocery store. That
Yeah, but it's a
isn't
flooded
water?
grocery store, in fairness.
Oh, okay. I thought
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
walking
yeah.
around shopping.
Little cart.
He's got a little cart.
Yeah. So and that's bait, and that's an Aussie movie, and even that's preferable to this in terms of the effects work, and that's an ultra low budget movie. So yeah, looks great, sounds great, utterly ludicrous. But if we haven't put you off, and we might have done,
Which we may have
then
done.
see it quickly. Yeah, if you're gonna see it fast, because it could well go any day once this court decision comes down. And it's in France. There's the screenwriters suing the production company for plagiarism, saying I had the shark in the Seine idea back in
2
2000.
people are
and whatever it was.
claiming credit for this.
I know. Yeah. Yes. So yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
You can have it.
yeah. Well,
Steve's
that's
like,
it. This is
take it.
yeah. So it is ludicrous, but
Yeah.
as I said, it is a good home theater experience. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, give it a go. There's definitely people in the chat that seem to have enjoyed it, I think.
I haven't
let's-
seen
yeah,
closest I've seen to enjoy it was Dom saying well, first Dom says too silly and not tongue-in-cheek and fun like Alexandra Aha's Piranha remake. And then he said, like you, but very nice picture and sound indeed. But yeah, it's like dude,
Jordan, I think, is a
Jordan,
bit more.
yep.
Yeah, had fun watching it. Final 25 minutes are extremely entertaining. That is one word for it. Entertaining, Jordan.
That's actually a
I mean,
couple words, but okay.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, there you go.
That's 2
Splitting
words.
hairs.
Extremely entertaining.
Yes, yeah. It is one way of putting it, shall we say?
Yes, there you go.
But yeah. Oh, and then actually, fun enough. And then Jordan says there were reported issues people had with subtitles, including them not appearing, and he had this himself, which is why he waited until Sunday to watch it. And that's interesting. It definitely caused some problems with the delivery of it. And I looked it up online, and Netflix said, if there are skips, it's because of subtitle issues and that kind of thing. So it was like, makes sense. But it is a little bit distracting. But there we go.
Should I get to what I sent you? And I'll just
go
I'll
for
like
it.
highlight it here. So Steve sends. We have a I don't know what you want to call it, but we have a we share the
picture album.
Yeah, picture album, so that we know like when we watch something, we drop it in. And this was in there, and I immediately said, I just texted you what it said, and I was like, international bloodbath. Like, what the heck is an what's the difference? And you didn't even know what I was referring to. And I sent you like this close-up shot like this. And I'm like, so the synopsis of Under Paris is, in order to save Paris from an international bloodbath, a grieving scientist is forced to face her tragic past when a giant shark appears in the, how do you say it? Seine. And I'm like, right there, they lost me at international bloodbath. Like, what happened in this world where now all of a sudden, like, bloodbath wasn't enough? It has to be people from around the world in the bloodbath. Like, it's like a bloodbath is a bloodbath, people. What does it matter if it's
international?
It's not like a buffet. You're not trying to tout like what a great tasting bloodbath it was for the shark. Like, if there's different flavors, if you ever watch Daniel Tosh, if there's different flavors and nationalities, but like, what the hell is international bloodbath? And then I said to you, and at one point, I'm like, when they were writing this up, like, we got to put this in there because, just it's an international bloodbath? I got to see this movie. It's not just a regular bloodbath. What the hell?
Yeah. It does relate to a triathlon that's going ahead in the Seine, which is an international thing, apparently. That's what it refers to. That's what's happening in the film. But yeah, I mean, and as I said to you, I think in the text, if that's the thing you've got the issue with, then you're doing very well with this movie, because it is so stupid that it just goes kind of, it's I mean, like I said, it does look great. It does sound great. It's just as soon as the story kicks in, you just, what have I taken leave of my senses? And I can forgive a lot. I love these kind of movies. This should be my thing. But I was just shaking my head in this and just go, oh, come on. Because if you're going to say sharks can go in fresh water and they can grow in seconds and they can breed like rabbits and it's all good, then why can't the shark fly? Why can't it talk? Why can't it walk along? Because if you're going to just do that, we're going to play fast and loose with the laws of nature. Then let's, why not just go all the way? We'll have sharks in space.
I'm surprised the moon didn't come down and bump them.
Exactly that. Let's I tell you what, Deez, let's write these down because we might have our own plagiarism lawsuit against these.
We'll call Carl.
Yes,
we'll get Carl to write it. We'll throw in a thunderstorm, and we're good.
You'll love that.
We're off and running.
Actually, did you see that they reissued Red Eye this week in the US? They reissued it in 4K, and it was all over Twitter. So it was good to see him, him getting kind of the recognition again for that. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
in the same breath as Oppenheimer, so it's very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's Red Eye, people. Anyone that doesn't know, because we haven't had Carl on the show for a little while. Carl Ellsworth is the writer of Red Eye, and he's been on the show. He did a takeover Tuesday with us, and he's a very good guy and very keen on HT.
Yeah,
and he loves his thunderstorms.
Yeah. We were talking about what's the one? Russell
Last
Crowe
House
one.
on the left.
No,
and
Russell
the
Crowe
Unhinged
one.
Unhinged.
Yeah. Unhinged and the wipers
wrote.
at the beginning of that. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, it's a great episode. Worth finding that if anyone hasn't heard that one.
Yeah, and he hung out with us during the 24-hour show too.
He's such a cool guy.
Yeah. I have that. It is in 4K on Kaleidoscape already, but it's DTS Master Audio. So
Under Paris.
No.
I was going to say what?
Red Eye.
Yeah. Okay.
Red Eye was I have it in 4K on Kaleidoscape already. So.
Oh yeah. So talking about this, so Andrew says, "Are the effects as good as Steve's fave Meg 2?" That's not my favorite. I like it. It's not my favorite, but we're not talking Meg, because the Meg 2 we get to the trench and I get into trouble.
We get in big trouble there. It's like,
got me killed and buried.
Well, buried. You're not dead.
Yeah. Reincarnated.
Yeah.
So Dom says the shark effects are dreadful. They are.
Yeah.
I mean, they vary. Some are okay, but some of them are truly awful, as I said. And I think Meg 2's effects are better. Yes, Dom, you're right. But of course, they had a much bigger budget, in fairness, because I think the temptation is to really lambast this kind of stuff. But they'll say, and rightly so, how much do you think we spent on this? So you got to kind of take the rough with the smooth a little bit on that. And look, we got to see it for just the price of a Netflix subscription, which these days is probably cheaper than a cinema ticket. So again,
a little bit,
you've got to kind of
maybe. But the other thing is when you can't blame the budget. You knew the budget when you started, so don't try to do something you can't do within the budget. Right?
Ooh, George Lucas would disagree with you with the original Star Wars.
That's not true. No, he would agree 100%.
Didn't he have to write a check at the end himself to finish it?
But that's what he did. But the way we got Star Wars is the epitome of what I just said. He knew he couldn't do like Attack of the Clones. He knew he couldn't do the first 3 stories with not just the budget, but with the technology. So he did what he could with what he had. You see what I'm saying? It's like, and that's why it became what it is. And it's like, had he had the budget and technology at the time, we might not have gotten the cliffhangers that we got with Star Wars into Empire and everything. We imagine if you just only knew that from 1 through 9 in order. But we grew up starting at 4, not knowing the prequels, but he did. But and this was stated, this isn't, hindsight. This was all stated back in the 80s. He was like, I couldn't make the first ones. We don't have the technology for it. So he stayed within his means, is what I'm trying to say. So you can't blame the budget. You can't say like, well, we didn't have enough money. We would have made it better. Then you shouldn't have done it in the first place. Don't give me like, we're past Davy and Goliath for our technology here and claymation. Like, come on, you're not impressing us. So I don't take that as an excuse. And I'd like the bright side, the bejesus out of it, but don't give me excuses.
My only thing with it, but you've got to compare movies. I mean, this is a comparison with Meg 2, budget, 120 something million,
Yeah.
or this movie, and comparing the two, which I could assure you had a much lower budget.
Yeah.
And so if you're comparing the effects on both, it's like comparing a Ferrari. There we are
Yeah.
again with that picture. A Ferrari with a Hyundai Tucson.
Yeah.
They both do the same thing, but one costs a lot more than the other.
Yeah. And
So you're going to get a better experience out of one than the other. So it's a little bit unfair to compare the two in terms of the effects work. And again, I think you have to kind of take into account what they spent on it. I think, but the story costs nothing. And that's the big problem with this film.
Clearly.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Although it might end up costing the production company plenty. But at the moment, it clearly didn't cost them anything.
All right. Let's move on to happier times, although much ballied about on this show recently. Let's bring it up here.
Oh, yeah. Go on, do that.
Here we go. The Fall Guy. I revisited this week, mainly because it's my first opportunity to go back and watch the special edition version on Kaleidoscape, which has been downloaded as they added it, a week or so, Steve, after the fact. I think I told you it dropped there on Kaleidoscape. It's in 1080 and DTS Master Audio 5.1, but it's as an extra on the Fall Guy package or whatever you get from Kaleidoscape, right? So I compared that with what I had been watching was the special edition or the extended version on iTunes. And I went back to my iTunes, watched that one for a little bit, and then immediately went right into Fall Guy, went onto the Kaleidoscape. Now, because it's an extra and it's a standalone movie to itself, you can't resume. It's a little clunkier because it's an extra. So you have to go into the menu, go to extras, and then play it from there. And if you want to get to a certain point in the movie, you have to chapter through, fast forward, and boom, start right there, which is still, I will say, far and away faster than if you tried to do that with a disc or something like that. It does move pretty quick, but it's not like even now you put a disc in, it remembers and goes, do you want to resume this or whatever? So this, you can't do. But I'll tell you this, going right from the iTunes into this and jumping right to that scene, which probably took me 30, 40 seconds, right? Oh my God. This here, and John Thompson and I were talking earlier today, and we fell into a Fall Guy conversation because he actually said he didn't like it as much when he first saw it, but every time he sees it, he's like, it's better and better. And we started, and the extended version is the version to watch. Even though on the Kaleidoscape, I have the physical media, HDR, Atmos, all of that, the extended version is superior. It's a superior story. And I don't want to talk spoilers, but John and I, like I said, it's like we had a limited conversation this morning. We both had things to do, and we're like, I got to go. We'll be here all day because it's so much deeper in different ways. But I'll tell you, the DTS Master Audio on this compared to what's on the iTunes, it's just not even close. And this isn't the Atmos version. It's so much more dynamic. It's so much better in the picture too, as well. Like I've talked in the past, there's that end scene where there's explosions with colored smoke. And I was saying that's practically reference material in the HDR. And it is. It's fantastic. But when you back it off onto the 1080p through the Kaleidoscape, it still looks fantastic. I will say it's not as good, but it's apples and different apples. It's not that bad. The stream, it looks a little muted. I will say, even when you jump back and forth, it looks a little muted. But the extended version of this, there's so many little pieces. I don't think we've talked about the extended version on the show yet, have we, Steve? I know you and I have. I don't think.
We briefly talked. We did briefly talk about it because we talked about different scenes because of what's in the trailer to what's in the and things. So we have briefly touched on it, but yeah,
Have
we
you
didn't go
seen
into
it
any
yet?
details.
In
No,
full?
no, I haven't.
Oh,
No, I'm
okay.
going to wait for the disc. I'm not going to
Yeah.
buy the digital version. I'll wait for the disc because I don't think it's going to be that far away, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, but it is so good, and I am looking forward to it. I understand there's more. That 20 minutes is just the initial one. I think.
Yeah.
In fact, I know there is significantly more to it.
I'm hoping.
So there might yet be another version on top of that. So yeah, we will see.
I'll tell you one off air. It's such a small piece and it's adds so much depth. And that's what's fun. I know I said to you before, I'm not sure I said it on the show, but 20 minutes extra in this one. But it's like there's only a couple of scenes that are extra, like minute or so, or 2 minutes. It's mostly like little quips here and there that were taken out. And they shorten some conversations by 10, 20, 30 seconds. You get it literally changes the story to a degree. And then it also changes entire conversations. That's one of the things John and I talked about. Like, there's a couple of conversations that in the theatrical version, it's a great conversation. You get the point. But then when you see this version and there's more to it, the things that you see in the theatrical version aren't in the order that they were spoken in the conversation. They re-edited it and remapped the entire conversation to make a fairly similar conversation to get the same point, just not as much context, I should say. So, but the home theater experience, even though it's 1080 with DTS 5.1, it's, oh my God, it's so much better than the iTunes stream. And then, yes, it's a notch below the full version. So I'm hoping we get the full version of this, like another movie I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, I had so much fun going back and forth with this. It's like you guys know, it's like my movie of the year so far.
Yeah,
I know it's not even my home theater experience of the year so far, but it is definitely my movie of the year. I love just watching this movie over and over.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to revisiting it, and with people that I know who really want to see it as well, who wouldn't go to the theater to see it. Again, another reason why maybe it hasn't found its audience in the theaters, but will do it at home. I mean, I know a number of people that are really keen to see this, and as soon as the disc is out, they'll be round to watch it. So yeah, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it again, even just the theatrical version, but the extra stuff, definitely. Did you any more post-it note sort of treasures?
There were a couple that I noticed, like that I didn't see before. I can't remember what they were. I just remember looking like, oh, I hadn't seen that one. There's so many. It's just like, what I liked even more was some of the clips that I hadn't seen or heard before, like under their breath comments and stuff. I was like, oh, I hadn't picked that up, but I haven't gone back and watched the theatrical, so maybe they weren't even in there. That might have been one of the things too. But yeah, it is such a, like, John nailed it when he told us about it too. Like, it's so much fun. That's what's so fun about this movie is it is just so much fun that every time you sit down and watch it, you laugh, you cry, you're like, I mean, it's just action. It's just their chemistry is amazing. It's just so much fun. So, all right. I brought us back off of that last one. For a little bit there.
Yeah. Oh,
not that we don't have more great stuff coming your way.
Oh yeah. Oh no, that's some good stuff. Definitely.
Which would you like next?
Take your pick, Dave. You are in control.
Am I?
Yeah. Just spin the wheel. It's like Wheel of Fortune.
You want to do this one?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, because we'll end on the one that everyone's seen, shall we?
Let me see. You want to end on this one?
Let me see. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll end on that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So everything else, just go for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Here we go.
Okay. All righty. So this is Ghostbusters 2. You might have heard of it on 4K UHD disc and in Dolby Atmos. Now, Deej, the reason I have chosen this week is because, and brace yourself, prepare to feel old. The original Ghostbusters was 40 years old this weekend.
Oh, God.
I know, 40 years old. I mean, goodness gracious me. I remember going to see the original and being taken to see that. And, well, again, I would have been 9. And
I
you know,
was.
just falling in love
You
with
were
it.
9? Oh wow.
Yeah,
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 I was
yeah. 49
14.
now. See, old man. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah, yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Was that a heart
Um,
attack I'm having here?
yeah, it's
Or
the
just my
sound of the walker.
feelings?
Yeah, yeah. It's so yeah, so 40 years old now. And I didn't know that until I saw it on Twitter over the weekend. And I thought, well, I can't watch the original Ghostbusters again as much as I could, but I can't do it on the show because I've done it
You've
to
done
death.
it.
I've seen it
Yeah.
loads of times, and you know, we don't need to go there again. But I then remembered that I'd bought the sequel on 4K disc
Yeah.
years ago and never got round to watching it. And so I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll watch that. And this is a film I've only seen a handful of times because this came out in theaters while I was in Spain and we'd only just moved out there. And so at that point, my Spanish wasn't very good. I wouldn't be able to go to the theaters and watch it and understand what was going on. And so I missed it. And you know, at that point, of course, it was still VHS and it was all kind of stuff. And I never really saw it more than sort of 2 or 3 times. But there are some people, including some very senior people at Empire Magazine, who will tell you this is better than the original. Now, I don't agree with that, but they do. They
Yeah.
genuinely think this is the best of the original movies. Again, I don't agree with it, but that's what they think. So I watched it relatively fresh because the last time I saw it would have been on. I think it might have even been on VHS. It may have been DVD,
Yeah.
but I don't think so. So it's been years and years and years since I've seen this. And so I gave it a go. Now, the movie's fun, I think. I think it is fun. It's flawed. It has issues that the bad guy is just not really much of a bad guy at all. And so there are definitely flaws in it. And I'm aware that Bill Murray absolutely hates it, as did, I think, Rick Moranis wasn't very keen on it either, to the point where they were quite vocal about what they didn't like about it. But I think it's fun. I think it's nowhere near as good as the first one. It's not as iconic as the first one, but it's fun. And I did enjoy my time watching it. So that's fine. But what I am and was very pleased about is how good a home theater experience this disc is. Boy, oh boy, it looks and sounds absolutely awesome.
Really?
Oh yeah, no,
I haven't seen it. I have it too.
Yeah,
Our
well, yeah,
Kaleidoscope. I
well,
got
quite.
the 4K everything.
Yeah, well, you will be, I think, Deej, very pleasantly surprised with this. So you'll
Is it
remember
because
when the
of its
first.
age you weren't expecting this, or is it like one of those situations? Like
I
maybe
think
they put like Casablanca or Lawrence of Arabia effort into a movie that you're like, this is Ghostbusters 2, people, right?
Well, it's a Sony disc, and of course, we
Yeah.
always say Sony rarely put a foot wrong, be it old or new releases, and we'll talk about one of their newer ones in a minute. But this is so they always seem to put that effort into it, and I'm also aware tangentially that at one time they were mastering their 4K discs using my display. So they were doing them on
Yeah.
the Z9D. They were
Yeah.
mastering their movies using that display. And
That's where it got its claim
there's
to
a
fame.
well, it's it. There's a featurette online about it, you know, where they showed it, you know, and all the rest of it. So yeah, so it may be something to do with that, but it looked absolutely excellent. Now it starts off, you know, with the old Columbia logo, obviously, and that's really grainy. And so as soon as it starts, I'm thinking, oh no, okay, right, here we go. It because there was a lot of controversy about when the original one came out, wasn't it? People were moaning about the grain levels, which I didn't have a problem with, but a lot of people got very unhappy about it. So I thought, okay, is this going to be another one? But no, because as soon as that Columbia logo goes, the movie just comes to life, and it's bright and it's colorful and it's detailed, and you've got, you know, shots of Bill Murray, who was getting on a bit, even it seems, even when they were making this, and you can see every mark on his face, all the stubble that he's got on his chin, all of that is razor
He
sharp.
has a lot of texture in his face.
Yeah, he does. He's a textured
naturally.
man.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
And all of that is really clear on here. And then when you get to the pic, you know, the painting, you can see the brush strokes on it. You can see
Oh,
the
wow.
marks on that, which is interesting because it was apparently a photograph, but it's been made to look like a painting. And by the way, it's up in Sony headquarters, apparently in their offices. They've still got it up there. I've been on IMDb again. So
informative.
it looks amazing. And when you get to the ghost, there's an amazing sequence in a courtroom, interestingly enough, when the Ghostbusters are on trial, where you get the blue of the ghosts, the brightness of the proton packs and the colliders, whatever you want to call them. And it looks amazing. The HDR and the wider color gamut on that, where you've got the cool blue and then the bright kind of orangey red light of the proton blast, whatever you want to call them, the streams, really does come to life. It looks amazing. And again, as I often say, the only thing better than how it looks, bizarrely, is how it sounds. And that sequence in the courtroom, Deej, is a demo sequence.
Really?
Every time,
like echo and like how the sound moves and stuff.
The thing is, well, of course, it didn't really kind of occur to me so much. I'm sure if I go back and watch the original again, it'll be the same. But obviously, when the streams come out, hi John.
Yeah.
When the streams, when the streams decide to put in an appearance, it's like a sonic, like whip effect. And so it goes right around the room, and it goes from the front straight to the back over the top. It goes left and right. It moves around the room. And then in amongst all that, you've got the ghosts screaming and squealing and stuff. And they go overhead and they go all around, and it's fantastic. And you just don't think that a movie from 1989, thereabouts, would have this kind of sonic kind of power to it. And yet the way they've mastered this disc, it's got all of it. It's a demo sequence. I'm going to talk about another movie in a minute that's similar with even more, but it really is good. And when they're on the streets, you can hear, traffic and everything else all around you. When there is when the music kicks in, and obviously people will know about the music in this, again, that fills the room nicely. This is awesome. And for a disc that should now be dirt cheap because it's older, it's a no-brainer to pick this up. I was really pleased with this, way more than I expected. I thought it's another Ghostbusters one. It'll look nice. It'll sound okay. It's really, really good. So yeah, I highly recommend this. If you don't have it, get it, is what I would say. And if you get a chance, Deej, and you get a minute, I know you've got stuff piling up.
Or 120 of them.
Yeah, well, quite. But put this on your list somewhere.
It's on.
When you
it's
do
on
get
my
shot,
Kaleidoscape. I see it. It's like, there it goes. All right.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I was very pleased with this. Way better than it has any right to be. So yeah, very, very cool. And it's not as good as the first one as a movie, but as a home theater experience, it is up there with some of the best remasters I've seen. Really, really good.
Bunch of people in the chat are saying this, but we got Van Gool saying, now I want to buy Ghostbusters 2 on 4K. I own the 2-movie Blu-ray set. And then Steve Att, same thing. He has the 4K box set also, another one untouched. Now Steve G is making me add it to the watch list. And it's like, and it's like I haven't seen it because it's not, I saw Ghostbusters obviously, but I do remember liking this when I saw it in the theater back then, but it wasn't, it's not one like, again, we have so much great stuff to watch. It's like, all right, I can get back to that. But you're right. Yeah. You got me going back into it now.
Well, I thought when I put it on because one, I needed something for the show, but two, I thought, well, I can't watch the first one. I'll put this on. And I thought, well, I'll watch it, edit, and I'll be entertained. But how much I'll enjoy it, I didn't know. But from minute one, from Sigourney Weaver pushing the baby down the street, and you can hear all the noise around, and you can see all the details and all the little frayed bits on her jacket. Right from then, I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'm in for a treat here, and I was. It's really, really good. I don't say that lightly. It's very cool. And again, if you've already got it in your collection, then when you get a minute, just give it a go. Yeah, it's way better than you might think. So yeah, very pleased with this.
I'll put that ahead of Bloodshot. How about that?
Well, that you could
my
put
next
it ahead of Bloodshot,
viewing or purchase. I put it ahead of that. All right, so I'll watch this before I watch that again.
Yeah, that's it. Before you buy another copy.
Yeah, exactly. I can't promise I'll put it ahead of Fall Guy, but let's bring up this comment from when I was talking Fall Guy, and Andrew Panna says in the chat, he goes, I watched Fall Guy with the missus. We were both disappointed, overrated. And I love that. I mean, other people are saying the same thing in the chat. Not exactly like that, but they didn't like it as much. And that's, no, I get it. And you know what's funny is the reason I wanted to bring up that comment is because I think, like, I'm so excited about it. People that see it are so excited about it. And then if you have heard that, then you go see it, you're like, it's not that good. Well, you're most likely right. It's not, but it's, and that's the dangerous thing about when you hear reviews or give reviews or your opinion on something. But yeah, and that's the other part is like, I want to bring it up is like, we don't all, I mean, Steve and I don't agree on everything. That's for sure. But yeah, to each his own. And that's what's great about the chat is like people be like, oh, I didn't like it because of this, this, and this. And it's like, okay, well, I meet you. Sometimes I actually agree with you, but like when we disagree on stuff like that, like you'll give me the reason. I'm like, oh no, I saw that. I'm just forgiving it because I loved it because of this or whatever, right? Kind of like you with Evil Dead Rise. I just forgive all that stuff you said, DJ, and it's like I'm going with it. Okay.
Well, some of the most interesting conversations you can have are when you're disagreeing about this sort of stuff because it's fun to talk about it, and as long as you do it respectfully, and we always do, it's part of the fun. And as we have mentioned with the Invisible Man, had we not had that conversation, then it would be you'd still think, oh, it was terrible. So exactly. You know, you know, who knows? But you know, it's the film is a medium that is absolutely because it's art. It's all
art.
open
It's
to interpretation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You take
if
from
it didn't
what
speak
you bring
to you,
to
there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't get mad at somebody that it did speak to. That's where I have the issue. Like, no, you're wrong. Oh, what? Yeah. I liked it and I'm wrong. And then Paul Hurt in the chat, going back to me saying like, don't give me the excuse you didn't have the budget. And it's like, he says, exactly. Limitations often make you more creative. And I always go back to Rob Cohen in Hurricane Heist. And if you listen to, like, I think he had done like Fast and the Furious movies and stuff, and he had high budgets. Yeah. So he had a crazy budget and he had all this stuff. And then when he did Hurricane Heist, they cut his budget. Not cut it. It just wasn't the same budget, right? And he talks specifically about this one shot that he's like, I need 2 cranes. And he's like, to get this shot right, I got to get a crane in here. I got to get another crane. I want this shot. So he put it to the studio, and they're like, no, it's not in your budget. You're not getting another crane. They're like, how'd you get the first one or whatever? So he's like, so he had to creatively come up with, he still wanted that shot, right? So he had to work around that handicap and be able to, and he's like, he actually invented something new for movies. I don't remember what it was at the time, but like Paul said, and it's like, don't tell me that you didn't have the budget. You just didn't know how to work around it, and you still went ahead and made it, right? Like, so you're sitting, like when somebody goes, I didn't have the budget to do it. Oh, so you knew this looked like crap? So you knew you were putting this out like crap, and then you were just going to say, well, if I had a bigger budget, it would have been better. Well, you're not very good at your job then, because you shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Well, yeah, but there are examples though of where someone has set out to do something and then realized very quickly they'd bitten off more than they can chew. And what they were talking about just before Paul Hurt's comment on that was Jaws. And Jaws is still the one I always go to when you're talking about the necessity being the mother of invention. The idea was you'd have a shark, a rubber shark, swimming at the beginning into the water. You'd see the shark and then it would swim up and, you know, munch the swimmer. And of course, the damn thing never worked. It just didn't. Water. Who knew? Right. Salt water and electronics didn't work, and hydraulics didn't play well together. And so he's like, "Well, that's okay. I'll just have the camera is the shark, and it's pointing up and it's looking up at the legs, and that means everyone will know that's a shark." And you can imagine how that meeting went, can't you? Where they were like, "What? Yeah, POV shot. Camera's the shark. What?"
It's like the
one
Seinfeld
of the most
thing.
enduring images.
It's like Seinfeld, like, what's the show about? Nothing. No, it's about nothing. So they're like, so you got a shark movie with no shark? Yeah, it's gonna be great. You're gonna think it's a shark, but there's no shark.
But that's it. And without and at a stroke create one of the most indelible images of cinema history, because
Yeah.
all you've got to do is you show that image and people go, that's Jaws. Yeah, that's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Jaws. That's a shot. I mean, you could take that to the middle of Africa, somewhere where they, only just about heard of what a film is, and they'll go, "That's
I've never
Jaws."
seen the ocean. It's like, that's a shark.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, that's a shark. That's it. We know what that is. So budgets are an issue, but then creativity is what comes from that.
Yeah.
And I suppose you might say, well, Jaws was what, $11 million, something like that. Probably not even that.
Yeah.
And you set out on this journey and think, I've got what I need, but then something comes along and then just destroys that. And Star Wars is an example of that. I mean, Lucas was struggling with the budget throughout. I mean, I'm sure he wrote a check, didn't he? Wasn't it to Alan Ladd Jr.? Didn't he write a check at the end to finish it? $20,000 or something, and he's got that check framed. He never cashed it. He's still got it, I think. I think Alan Ladd Jr. kept it. And so it just shows how budgets can be a problem at the best of times, but
they can be, but don't use it as an excuse for your end product. Yeah. And like Lucas had to pay, or you have to do it. It's like you're going to work around it, and it's like, I mean, it's just So, all right, you ready? You ready? Let's go right into your next one here.
This could be the controversy. Yes, or controversy.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Let's see what happens with this, Deej. We might be able to kick. We might about to be kick over an ant's nest. Let's see what happens to a hornet's nest.
Ant's nest, hornet's nest.
Yeah. Okay. So this then is now. What do we call this, Deej? Do we call this Ghostbusters 2016, or do we call this Ghostbusters Answer the Call?
I don't know. It's like, what was it? I haven't seen it. I've never seen it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No.
Not at all.
Nope. Never saw it at all.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't remember why I didn't see it in the theater, but I was like, and then I started hearing reviews about it, and I was like, okay, same thing. Got better things to do.
I get that. Okay. All right. Well, this is a bit like Edge of Tomorrow, which seems to have had different title changes depending on whether it was in theaters or in the cinema or at home cinema. In theaters, it was called Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
But by the time it got back to home video, it was called Ghostbusters Answer the Call, which makes no sense at all. I'm not even sure that's a sentence. It's very odd. Jen might be able to help us with this. I'm not sure Answer the Call is a sentence.
Yeah.
It's very odd. I don't know. Anyway, that's what we'll call it. 2016 Ghostbusters. Now, this is all the female Ghostbusters as it became known. And where it was controversial is because a lot of people apparently online were very upset that how dare they try to reboot Ghostbusters with a female lineup. I don't understand that point of view, but that's apparently what happened. And of course, famously, it tanked at the box office, and lots of people were blaming, the misogyny for it. So as a film, it is definitely a film with problems. There's no doubt about it. This is, I think, my fifth time with it this week. I think certainly fourth, might be fifth. I didn't see it in theaters. I've only ever seen it at home. But this is, the time of night. And the reason I watched it again, having just watched Ghostbusters 2, I've only recently watched Afterlife, and we talked about that on the show. And I thought, actually, I don't think we've ever talked this one. And so I was like, right, well, I'll watch this instead. And I knew that this was a good experience. So I'll come on to that in a minute. So the film, it's a long movie. It's 2.25 hours long for what is an action comedy. So it is long and it is baggy. And the movie does feel like, to me, it's not a director's cut. It's like an extended edition where they've just chucked in every alternate line, every ad lib, all the stuff has just been kind of thrown in, because some of it lands and some of it really doesn't. And there are whole subplots in this that don't need to be there and that pad this out. And so that you do feel it. And I have to admit, this time more than ever, I did begin to feel the length of the movie. Hi, John. Okay, so I began to feel the sheer amount of time that was going, and I remember thinking, it could only be about 20 minutes left, and it was like half an hour. Oh gosh, okay. So anyway, it is fun though. It is enjoyable. I think if you like Ghostbusters, you should see it, and don't let misogynistic idiots online put you off it, because it is good. And Kate McKinnon is the MVP of this for me. She is always doing something funny, even when she's got no dialogue. She's on screen, just giving little looks to other people that is never less than funny. And Chris Hemsworth in this is very funny as well. And I've just realized on that image, there's a joke right there as well, because he's supposed to be stupid in this, and he's the only one who's not holding a gun or holding a proton thing. He's literally just using his fingers. Which is very funny. And I won't give away any of the other stuff, because if you haven't seen it, it's worth seeing. He is galactically stupid in this and very funny because of it. So yeah, so as a film, it is baggy, but I've always quite liked it, and I did enjoy it this time. Now, that being what it said, or that having been said, this is another Sony disc. And everything I say about every Sony disc, I'm going to say about this disc. Because this is demo worthy,
Really?
not quite front to back, because there are some scenes that are a little softer, but there are sequences in this that could rival just about any other home theater demo sequence you care to name. There's a sequence in Times Square where there is a big giant set piece in Times Square where, again, the proton packs, the streams go right round the room, and they move independently and right into the corners of the room, if that makes sense. It's not just it just kind of whips past. It goes right to the very corners and fills the room with sound. And you get this swirling stuff, you get explosions, there are some references to the original Ghostbusters in this, again, without spoilers, which all seamlessly blend into the audio mix. There's another sequence at a rock concert, which again has stuff flying overhead, things going all the way around the room, and bassy as anything, real bass and heft to it as well. And amongst all that, the ghosts in this have got a sort of an electric blue look to them. Again, hi John. All right, not the electric blues, those of us of a certain age, but they've got the electric blue hue, rhyming as well, but with red eyes, and so you get this lovely kind of darkness around them, the electric blue color, red eyes, and the HDR on that makes it look three-dimensional. And having said three-dimensional, here's something odd in this movie that I've only ever seen happen in one other film, and the other film is Life of Pi. And this is something, Deej, I had to speak, I don't think you'll mind me saying, to John Thompson about. As I was watching this, I texted John because I needed to know. So the movie's in 235, Life of Pi, okay? Now, this was a movie that was shown in 3D in theaters, as again was Life of Pi. But what this film does, they did it in Life of Pi, but it does it even more in this, is there are what are called, I am reliably informed, outies. Okay? An outie, there are innies and there are outies.
And outies.
And an outie. So what that is this. Well, that's what you'd think, wouldn't it? This is where you've got black bars, so your 2-3-5 ratio.
Oh, I know where you're going. Yep. I remember that.
But the sequences come over the bars.
Over the bars.
And it happens a lot in this. And it's used to be for 3D to give you that extra experience of three-dimensionality. But in this, which is 2D, it still does it. So when there is sort of ectoplasm coming out, it comes over the bars. When you get sort of flames being thing that comes over the bars, it happens a lot in this.
And that's a problem for people with screens, like 235 screens.
Well, you just won't see that.
Exactly.
You just won't get that at all.
Or you'll get that if you catch the glimpse of the bleed over, if you happen to. But that's interesting.
But otherwise, you won't see it. But if you're watching a thing, you will. There's also a brief IMAX sequence at the end as well, where it goes full screen. Very brief. I'm not sure why they bothered really, but they do.
Right.
And so, but there's lots of that in this. And so, and what that does then again though is it lets the contrast and the HDR blend with the black bars, because the bars are inky black. And so suddenly then it adds extra definition to it. So it's really clever. Whatever you might think of the film, I get that some people really don't like it. But whatever you think of the film as a home theater experience, it's a knockout. It is really good. And again, the Times Square in particular, the rock concert as well, it's bassy. Every part of the room is filled with noise and everything is moving as it should. It's really, really good. So even if you do pick it up, DJ, or someone picks it up cheap, if you don't want to see the film, fine, go to the Times Square sequence and just watch that. And I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised. And this is a sequence you can bring someone in and go, check out my home theater, hit play, and just and again, this is one of those where kids can come and watch this bit. You don't have to worry about Pacific Rim or Fury Road or lots of the movie John Wick, the movies that we go to which you can't show to kids. This is one that you absolutely can. And I think they'll be very, very pleased with how this looks and sounds. So I really enjoyed those sequences. The rest of the stuff, maybe not quite so much, but those bits are very good indeed.
Nice.
So well recommended. So Jordan, okay, I'm surprised, Jordan. I'm surprised. Well, get it though. So Jordan says he thinks Ghostbusters 2016 is awful.
No, he says I don't think Ghostbusters is
I don't think. Sorry, gosh,
the extended
right. That's
version
more like
fixed
it.
a few editing issues seen in the theatrical version. I think the 4K disc is great though. But
sorry, Jordan, I was going to say that's not like you.
No, there are mixed in the chat. It's like there are people like I didn't like it or I liked it. And what his VJM says, I don't care that they rebooted it. Problem was it was pretty bad. And that's what's tough is like you do when you get that controversy. I can't even say the word now. When you get any kind of like controversy to start and it's one of those like misogynistic things. Well, then it's like if you're like VJ here, you're like, I don't want to say anything because that's not why I didn't like it. It just didn't like it, right? And it makes it,
which is fair enough.
Stuff like exactly. But stuff like that, it's like, or like I'm like, oh, I hadn't seen it. I don't remember why. Blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, he's one of those people. It's like that's what's too bad. It's like you're still allowed to not like things. Steve Att says he's with VJM, right? And it's like that's what's tough. And it's like. And that like it's the exact opposite of why I started Brightside is because there were so many movies I liked that nobody wanted to say they liked, and it's like you see it here in the negative. Like VJM says he didn't like it, and then Steve's like I'm with him. Like you need that little bit of support because you don't want to be thought of that way. But who cares? We're in a good place here. And I don't think there's anyone that would take against it in this space. Not in this space
because of the gender of the characters. I don't think we have any of that. And I get that because the humor is kind of dopey. And again, the leads in this
wasn't the others
come with their own. But the leads come with their own particular comedic chop. So you've got SNL. People in this, and Melissa McCarthy, I think, is an acquired taste that you either like her or you really don't.
Oh, I love her. My God, she's awesome.
Yeah, but some don't. Some really don't like her, and so that might be an issue that you might have. Well, yeah, there are people out there, but I think, and so if you don't like the comedic stylings of it, then the story's not going to work. But I think if you do, and there is enough, there are loads of gags that miss. But there are quite a few that hit. And again, Kate McKinnon for me is great in this, as I said. And so, it's worth seeing for that. But again, guys, those saying, look, I don't really want to see it again, that's fine. Just check out those sequences. You want to give your home theater a test, that's what I'd suggest you do. I think you'll be pleased that you did. It's worth seeing. And then Van Gaal says, oh yeah, what do you think of it? Well, there are some cameos in it. I'm not gonna put that up in case people haven't seen it and you haven't seen it, Deej. There are cameos from various people in this, some more blatant than others. Yes, but it's no different to what they did in Afterlife, and they continue to do. So yeah, but I'd
recommend
seen
the latest one yet? I haven't.
No, Frozen Empire. Yeah, no, it's out here. Next week after on disc, so I'll watch it then for the first time.
I'll probably watch it when you do because I've had it since it dropped on Kaleidoscope a while ago. But
it did. I haven't even seen any part of it at all. There was a screener. I was offered a screener, but I didn't bother with it. So I want to see it properly.
But
it's all right.
All right, I go to this. This one will be quick as well, but for me. But this is one I watched this week, and. This is and this kind of dovetails nicely with the Fall Guy, how I said that's the extended edition, but it's in the supplement right now. Here is The Abyss 4K HDR Atmos, all of that in the special edition form, which got dropped just last week, I think, was it on Kaleidoscape? Wow. Yeah, we finally we had it as a supplement like the Fall Guy extended version, right? So they just released, and I said back then, I'm like, it's not uncommon for them to release it as an additional, and you had to buy it. It's an additional purchase. I bought it right away and watched it. And again, it's like everybody's like, oh, DJ's going back to this one. It's like, why didn't he watch, Frozen or whatever it is? It's like right now, the way my mind is, I can't take in new stuff as easily. It's just so nice to sit down and go, I know this. So that's what I do. And I just watched this recently. I watched the regular version. I watched the extended version on the supplement, but now getting it in the supplement, I think I don't know if John Brock and I talked privately or if we talked on the show about it, but he was like, he was not having it. He did not like the supplement, the 1080. He was like, and I was like, I watched it. I was a little more forgiving. I was just happy to have it. But this is, it's the 4K with that. It's just, oh my God. It's like, when you get something new and you're like, all right, I didn't see that before. I'm sure, I know it was there, but now I'm just looking around. I'm like, they're down under the ocean. Spoilers, everybody. They're down under the ocean, and it's like they're still atmospheric, like depth. Like some of the scenes are crisp and clear when they're in tight on the characters. Other scenes are like you can see the haze in the room, right? And there's like, and then even in the water as well. It's like the depth, like you could see how far you could see underwater. And it's like watching this, I was watching it, a little bit of it with my wife, and I'm like, it's like, you go underwater, you know how hard it is to see. And I'm like, look, I'm like, oh, it's gotta be so hard to see. You can't see because they're not like at certain times they're swimming without masks and everything. But the special effects, I think, are great for the most part. Maybe not the extended version part. That's still, we all know what it was. Without giving it away, but there's some not rainbow, like blooming effects that are there because of the way they're bending light and water without giving too much. But there's some pinks and the hues and the stuff. Just seeing all of that, it's just, and then it just seems so seamless to me to watch this special edition, which I had on Laserdisc back in the 90s when it came out. I had all of it, but I don't know if I was just in amazement at what I'm seeing here on this giant, on my screen, and then like remembering back to 480 on a, 28-inch television and being amazed then. And of course, that's a 28-inch television. And I had the black bars because that's the way you're supposed to view the movie, but that's what home theater was at the time. And here I am seeing it in all its glory, masked out properly and everything, and just being like, in 4K with the HD. It's how people complained about this when it came out. I'm just looking at it. I was like, I didn't see a flaw. Like, but I'm sure there are people there with critical eyes that want to, look at that. Yeah, well, get into the movie. Get your head out of the nitpicking, like that pixel's wrong. Yeah, well, you're a pixel. So
yeah, I mean,
so much fun.
It's a thing of beauty. The transfer of this, and audio and video. I mean, I loved it as well. I raved about it when I watched it and saw it. I mean, it's great. Yeah, and we are very lucky to be able to get this. They could have easily done a 4K version in DTS HD and then sold us an Atmos version down the road, and we'd have bought that as well. Yeah. And yet they make you wait 20 years, but then they give it to you all singing, all dancing. I can't see how it could be better. I mean, there were some people on Twitter that, as we talked about, who tried to suggest that it could be better. But, I was blown away by this. I think it's awesome, exactly as you did. It's great. Interestingly, Deej, now, did you notice the bit with Ed Harris and Maria Mastrantonio when they're trapped?
Yep.
Have you noticed that there's a screen that they actually wipe the lens in camera and you don't even realize it? Did you? There was a bit in there. It was on Twitter. I saw it in Twitter.
No.
They are in there. There's water on the lens, and I kid you not, someone wipes the lens clean in the scene, in camera, and you don't even realize they've done it.
Until you know that they did it.
Until
now you're going to see.
Yeah, exactly that. Sharpie on the sharp. Honestly,
yeah, the
someone
Sharpie
does
on the
that.
shark. Yeah.
Someone does that, and it just
I-
carries on, and you don't even realize it.
I did notice that some of the shots the camera, you could see the camera get wet, and then like it just gets soaked, and then they go to another shot, they edited it right out. But it's like it was, I did notice that, which is very unusual in a movie. They usually try to pull back on that so you don't get that. You don't realize. The idea is you're not supposed to think that you're watching something being filmed. You're just supposed to be there, right? But now you're actually, the fact that happened kind of makes it, if they did it a lot, it'd be more like a documentary, right? Because you'd be like, they're filming these things. The idea of making these movies is none of these people are supposed to know they're being filmed. So yeah, that is fun. I'll have to see that, but
it's on.
Yeah,
I saw
I'll
it on
have
there,
to
and I just didn't realize it at all. It goes by completely. It's right there, and you just don't even sort of acknowledge it because of the emotion of what's going on the screen. But it's right there. Someone wipes the lens literally with a cloth, just like that.
Yeah.
And just like, whoa,
That's so
okay.
funny. I will say that
so
that scene though, and like without giving it away, if you've never seen it, it's like her face and like the color and the lack of at certain times, and then comes back. It's like there's things like you didn't even know that existed, right? And man, such a it's a lot of fun. So let's Richard where'd it go? Yeah, there it is. DJ Richard Zagowski. DJ, are you still watching your laser discs? No, not at the moment. But when the new theater is done, one of the things that I do want to do, I do want to get like a legacy piece in there, get a laser disc player in there, and be able to because a lot of how I'm designing and my choice and stuff is because of like where I came from and where I am now. So I would like to do that, and for the exact reason that Paul is saying, he's like, Paul Hurt says, I watched a bit of Laserdisc last year just for fun on a 65-inch OLED. Shockingly bad. I would expect nothing less. We talked about it. I think towards the end of the show, Paul, the 24-hour show, Paul broke out his Laserdisc collection, if I remember right, Steve.
He did.
And he was showing us, like, it was a little show and tell. Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. And that was at what, like 4 a.m?
I think it was at the point that I think it was at the time that Paul didn't think we'd have enough to talk about. Not realizing that,
Paul brought props.
Yeah.
I'll keep DJ going.
Not realizing that we had Brett to entertain us.
Yeah, we had to prop Brett. Paul brought props. But yeah, it's like I would expect, and we've talked about it, Paul and I. Like I would expect nothing less. I'm like, it's Laserdisc. It's 480 at best. And you're like, what did you expect? And I know what he expected, but I've seen people going, it's superior. What do you use it for display? Because you just turned your like 4K display into a 480 display. Like it's every pixel is like 10. What are you doing? Like
I suppose it's good to show how far we've come.
That's exactly why I want it. I want to do that. It's like I just want that piece in the rack. I want like how far we've come. I mean that's the part. That's the best part of all of this, and especially when people say like, "Oh, home theater," or like to have that in the rack, right? The right Laserdisc player in that rack, and go, "Home theater is too expensive nowadays." Oh yeah, you know what that piece cost back then? I mean, just for inflation, it's like that thing's probably my Laserdisc collection was more expensive than a Kaleidoscape is today, no doubt about it. When you adjust for inflation, it's crazy. So it's like it's gotten cheaper actually, but if you didn't experience it, you don't think that because things are getting a little more expensive now. But yeah, like Richard says, they were better than VHS. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, but even the hi-fi VHS, the 4-head player, it's like there were things you could do with that, but Laserdisc was where it was at. That was that was my original goal in home theater. Let's see. All right, we're back to let's do this one because I'm done.
Yep.
So we got to do this and then we'll wrap up with the one we both did. So I am not.
Yeah.
All right. let's hit this.
Okay, so this is then the Andor, the Star Wars TV show on 4K disc and in Dolby Atmos. Um, Obviously, the disc version, not the Disney Plus version.
Yeah.
And I know you've seen this, Deej, so I won't ask you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to answer your question that you asked me last week.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not the answer you want.
Oh,
I know, I know, I know,
that's
I know, I know.
disappointing.
Yeah,
Let the
it is.
listeners
It
in
is.
on it.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, we will. We'll come to it. We'll come to it. So,
Okay.
I'm rewatching this. I'm 4 episodes in, and famously-ish, I was the one who was not very keen on Andor
Yeah.
when it came out, and I say I was the one because most people
On the
love
show.
this. Well, I think generally, actually, teach
Yeah.
because there were
True.
people who had this as their movie show of the year. Most people loved Andor, and I did not. I kind of lost the faith a little bit. But then, having said that, it's because I'm not a massive fan of Diego Luna, and I'm not a massive fan, I'll say it quietly, of Rogue One. Apart from the ending, obviously the ending's cool. We all like the Darth Vader bit. But
Yeah.
I'm not a massive fan of Rogue One. And this, of course, is very much Rogue One. Same writer, same director, fine. So I think it is of a piece. So when I first saw it, I didn't think much of it. And I ummed and ahed for quite a while about getting this set because I did think, well, I don't need to see this again. But my brother was in Canada a few weeks back and it was there and it was cheap. And I thought, well, if I'm going to get it, this is the time to get it because it'll be cheaper than if I get it here. And it's not out here until July. So I picked it up and I'm now rewatching it and I'm on episode 4. I'm enjoying it this time around. I'm actually really getting into it much more. Now I know where the story's going. I'm more kind of forgiving its kind of things and I can concentrate more on the dialogue rather than the kind of some odd story beats. And I am enjoying it. I'm finding it much easier to watch this time around, which is good news. And I'm looking forward to finishing it. And so that's good. And again, the pictures that you're putting up there, these are the hand drawn menus that all of the Disney at least Star Wars discs so far. I haven't tried the other ones I've got yet, but all of the Star Wars ones have these hand drawn menus, which are lovely. They're really nice, and they are a feature in and of themselves. And again, as I said with Obi-Wan and with the Mandalorian, there's only sort of 2 or 3. There's about 7 or 8. They're really, really nice. So I love this, and this is I reckon, a bonus to the physical editions. It's a really cool thing to get, and they look lovely on a screen. Don't let that picture fool you. On a screen properly, they look beautiful. So really enjoying it, far more so this time than last. Now, image quality wise, it's really nice. It's on a par with Obi-Wan and with the Mandalorian. There is an appreciable immediate difference from the stream. And I haven't A/B'd it, but I know it well enough to know, to see the differences here. Right from the Andor logo, which of course is against the black star field, you can see every little star all really clear. It looks great. So the blacks are black as they should be. The highlights are really good. The bolts, the HDR and the laser bolts are really, really nice. There's lots of detail. Diego Luna's sort of beard and, straggly that it is, you can see every kind of hair on that and all that sort of stuff. So it looks great. And it does sound much better than the stream.
Much better. Not
but
amazing,
with one caveat.
Much better.
It's better. Yeah, it's not amazing. It's not Ahsoka levels, because I can't wait to get that on 4K disc. It's not Ahsoka levels. It's not up to Obi-Wan Kenobi either. Although Obi-Wan is newer than this, in fairness, but Obi-Wan is better audio-wise as well. But it is still very good. The ships that they've got, the Empire, I don't know what you call them. They've got ships that basically look like the clone gunships from Attack of the Clones and stuff. And you see a fair few of those flying around, and they're very basey for no real reason, but they are. The laser bolts are quite basey as well. Interestingly enough, they've got more heft to them, which is weird because, of course, it's just light. We've talked about that before. But nevertheless, they do have some base to them, oddly. And however, so it is basey, and there's more to it. And also I found much more kind of presence with, when they're on your planet and you can hear voices and you can hear things in the background. You can hear ships taking off. You can hear bells and things ringing and all this stuff. So all that's really good. But the one sequence that you really want to be bassy, and we were looking forward to, and we
Oh my
thought,
God,
yay,
yeah.
now they'll fix it. I'm afraid not. So
There's
the
no
fight, so the
fix. It's
sequence,
just not there.
it's just not there. No.
Yeah.
And what's even weirder is, and this is for those wondering, going back a bit now, we're talking nearly 2 and a bit years ago, is that when there is a fight sequence in a sort of warehouse where there are big heavy blocks sort of on chains in the ceiling, and at some point they fall. And in the stream, they made no noise at all, really, other than just a clattering noise. They could have. It's almost like they forgot to put the sound effect in. And we were really disappointed with that and couldn't quite work it out. And in this, it's the same, and what's even weirder about it is whilst that's going on, you've got laser fire going on, and that's got bass to it. So the laser bolts sound more bassy than these bloody great big bits of sort of masonry falling from the ceiling. It's really odd, but it's clearly baked into the mix because it's the same on this. So, it must be what they were going for, must be what they thought. And, not much you can do about it, unfortunately. So that is a shame, but all the rest of it is really good. And there are some proper fights. There's lovely kind of swooping ships, and there are some bass and everything else in it. So yeah, it's still very good and much better than the stream audio video. This is well worth picking up when it's out here, and obviously it's already out over there. And you've already got it, haven't you, Deej?
Yeah. I already have it. I just haven't watched it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to this week too. I was like, there was another one that we talked about I wanted to get to, but I'm hoping to get to it for next week with Jen. But yeah, this is one of those ones, like I love bass, but I'm not like, it's not a necessity to me. Right. So like, if it's there, great, but I'm not one of those people like, this movie needed more, or this or that. And it's like, you had mentioned that one particular scene earlier, and I was like, I had my doubts because it doesn't bother me, right? But you were 100%. I saw the scene, I was like, oh crap, that is wrong. It's like, I mean, it's just lacking big time. Like it's literally a giant scene. It should be there. That thing can't do that without bass. Like, it's like that would happen. It's like, so, but yeah, it's
I mean,
it's too bad.
It genuinely sounds like they've just missed it.
Yeah,
that someone just they were like, you need to put in the bass
special
there,
effects.
and
the sound guys just didn't, because they don't record it live, and it has to be put back in, and they literally missed that one. But it's a pretty big part of the scene. Yeah, so it's like, how did they miss it? And to be fair though, there is a lot going on, and you can see how and you're right. It's like, I had a feeling they weren't going to correct it because it would have meant that's literally a new mix. There's just nothing there for them to improve on. It's just not there.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. But what's weird then, though, as I said, is the laser bolts all going around are quite bassy. So you're like, well, it is just strange. But luckily it goes by really quickly. And then you go back to the noise that you'd want. So it is a good mix. And as I said, it's definitely made me enjoy it more this time around. Nice. So yeah, it's all right. Yeah, not bad at all.
All right. All righty. So let's get to let's say Don Hensley popped in. He says he's like, just wanted to say hi. I don't want to save this episode for my plane ride to M-Wave. So Don is there. So I said hi in the chat to Don. I'll see you at M-Wave because I will be there on oh, crap, I still haven't registered. No, Michael, he texted me yesterday. He goes, did you register yet? I was like, oh my God, sorry. I still hadn't registered for it yet. He goes, I don't see you in here. I'm like, yeah, we did last time we talked, he added me, but yeah, so I got to register me and my wife will be with me as well. So we will be there on Saturday. I'm flying in Friday night and I'm leaving Sunday morning, Jose, but I definitely want to be there.
And where's it being held?
It is not this weekend. Is it next weekend? I think.
And where?
Where it's at? It's in Kansas City, Missouri. I fly out the 21st. I fly out that night, Friday the 21st. I will be there on the 22nd. It's actually going on Friday, Saturday, and I believe even Sunday. But yeah, and then I fly back on the 23rd. And then Michael and I have a couple of things planned for after, and we're trying to get the logistics on that. But yeah, so I will be there. So look for me and say hi, because
Just make sure they
just
make
don't
sure they
scare my
announce your
wife.
flight this time, Deej. Make sure they announce your flight on the way back.
my
All right, don't fall for that.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my
Oh,
God. I
and
hate
make
traveling.
sure that the roads you drive down are not one-way roads, or if they are, you're going in the right direction.
No. It wasn't a one way. It was like,
Oh, was
like,
it?
yeah. Remember, I pulled out of the parking garage, and my son's like, I go, which way, left or right? He goes, you can only go left. I'm like, all right, and I stayed on the left side of the road on the because you can only go left coming out of here. That means it's a one way. Well, let's go. And I'm driving down the road, people beeping at me like, what's the problem? Like, oh no, this is a two-way. Whoops. And I showed you the car I was in. It wasn't didn't exactly blend in.
Inconspicuous. Yeah.
Whoops. Whoopsie daisies. That was good. Good times. So, all right. Yeah, you ready to get to this last one?
Yeah.
This is
Let's
good.
do this.
I can't wait to yeah. All right, let's get to it.
Are you going to do this first, Deej?
You can start.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So,
I can barely
so
remember.
this is fair enough. So this is The Acolyte. You may have heard of it.
Yeah.
This is the new Star Wars TV show on Disney Plus, and in 4K UHD and in Dolby Atmos, which dropped last Wednesday. The first 2 episodes. Yeah, it is 2, isn't it? It is 2. Yeah, dropped last Wednesday, and I watched them on the Wednesday afternoon. I had a little bit of free time, and I thought, right, now's my time. But I saw them after John, who had already seen them and said that it was good, and he enjoyed the series and is enjoying kind of how it's going and that sort of stuff. So I watched it. I'm enjoying it so far. There are 1 or 2 issues. I've got some friends, by the way, that hate it.
Really?
who were texting me for most of yesterday, talking about how much they absolutely hate it, and are just this. Well, one of these guys is a lifelong Star Wars ultra nerd, and I mean, when I say that, literally, Star Wars is all he watches. Doesn't watch anything else.
Well,
And he's quite proud of that fact. Well, quite. And he's saying that he absolutely hates this and he's really annoyed at it. But yeah, so anyway, I enjoyed it for what it is. I think there are some problems, but generally I really enjoyed it. To me, it's like Star Wars does 70s kung fu movie.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's quite cool.
Yeah.
Because it's not seen that before.
No, and that's what I think is great about it. It's like you guys had said that before I had seen it, and I was like, it didn't change my expectations. But then I'm watching it, and I'm like, it's at a whole other level. It takes like kung fu to a whole other level, right? Because you have force issues, you have all of this stuff going on, and I'm like, this is so much fun. And it was like all the shows that we've talked about, it's like kind of like what they did with Marvel and when they did, the Scarlet Witch. They do all these different shows are brought to you in a different format so that it's not the same cookie cutter kind of show, right? Like Loki was different. And then like Winter Soldier, not Winter Soldier, but Captain America,
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yeah,
they were different, and you liked some, you didn't like others, but at least they didn't stick to one type of format. And they're doing that with the Star Wars. Like Obi-Wan was different than Acolyte, which is different than Ahsoka, which is, I mean, even just the format of the show itself, how they're pacing it, what they're doing, and now we're getting like you said, like you're getting kung fu and in 4K. HD on Disney Plus. I mean, the Atmos, it's like, I know we're going to get into that, but it's like, how do you, the only reason I can see people hating it is because that's not Star Wars. No crap. It's like, we had that. Because what happens is the majority of people go, been there, done that. It's the same thing. I need something fresh, something new. And I think this is amazing. And VJ does not, which I love. Feel free. VJ, thumbs down for me. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, you even get it. It gives you a Star Wars version of Wushu. I mean, and bear in mind, last year we were watching, House of Flying Daggers. Hero. We were watching. I mean, not quite so much. what's his face, old Ip Man or IP Man. Not so much that, because there's not a lot of wushu in that, but Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, obviously, Hero, House of Flying Daggers, where you've got these cafes where things happen and where people kind of leap around the room, and Fearless is around, well, of course, as well. We did, where people kind of seem like they're flying around these cafes as they're fighting, and they're on multiple platforms, and this gives us a Star Wars version of it. Yeah, exactly that. But it gives us reasons why they could do it, because it's the Force, and all that stuff. And I am very much here for a 70s kung fu movie Star Wars series where they talk about, strike with an empty hand. I mean, that's straight out of Shaw Brothers.
Yep.
It's just like, how cool is that? So yeah, I really did like that.
And the whole story, I think, is super interesting. I can't wait for the next episode. It's I like how they, and I don't want to give it away because there's so many lines, like cool lines of dialogue that, but I now see, here's what's interesting, and I can say this, I can pick on him because Paul knows I love him. He's like, I know lightsabers are cool and all, but overused. See Acolyte. It's like, see it. It's like that to me is, no offense, Paul, is like, you haven't seen the show, because I know they have one in the show here, but you got to see. That's I don't want to ruin anything, but it's kind of the meaning of the show. It's right. Am I wrong? It's it's like, that's what I think is cool about it. And it's like, exactly like Paul said, it's like, if you're, and that's probably why people don't like it. They want, and I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give away. It's only 2 episodes, not much I could give away, but that is the point. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm about to ruin everything.
By the way, is it 100 years, Steve? For some reason I had it
is.
It's 1,000 years.
No,
I don't know
it's
what.
100.
Okay. 100 years.
It's 100 because I read that and I was like, ooh, characters can show up. Okay. It's in the synopsis. So Yoda, Chewie, all of these characters can show up at some point. And I knew that, like, going into it. Oh, Paul, sorry. No, I liked it. Oh, so he was making the point that I was just saying. There you go, Paul. Love you, buddy.
So it is definitely trying something different. And again, murder mystery. Yes. The who is the, if you'll forgive the expression, the Phantom Menace in the background of all this. I think we've got an idea, but so that's good. I said my friend that had the massive issue with it did not like the fact that there is a portly Jedi. He didn't like the fact that you've suddenly got a Jedi who is heavier than most, and didn't like some of the fake beards.
Well, I always wondered why they were so fit if they could use the Force.
You don't need to do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not
but what
doing
I find
heavy
interesting,
lifting, you're just going.
Yeah. Well, what he and I were talking about, what I liked about this is, in the original trilogy, well, I mean, we're all out of time, aren't we? In the original trilogy, you had the Jedi were good, the Sith were bad, and the only time there was any mixture is when Vader becomes good, and it's a quick transition, and that's that. In the prequels, Lucas starts to play with this idea that the Jedi were the authors of their own downfall, the architects of their own downfall, because there was arrogance. And Palpatine says to Yoda, doesn't he, in episode 3, your arrogance blinds you. And I think what I like about this show is that seems to be taking up that thread. And this is supposed to be after there've been generations of peace, and they're the peacekeepers, and they are at the height of their power. And I like how the characters do seem arrogant. Both of the Jedi in that picture, in their own way, are arrogant and dismissive of others and lesser people. And I think that's really interesting. And this idea that they are,
I would say complacent would probably be the better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just complacent in their place, in where they, you know what I mean? Like, so they don't expect, which is the exact opposite of what we know.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And I like that. So I like how they're doing that. And this idea that they're so distracted, so certain of their own dominance, that will leave the door open for something nasty to come in. And that's kind of where we get the birth of the Sith and everything else. And so that's something I really liked how they played with it. Perhaps not quite so keen on the end of episode 2, where it does go a bit Harry and the Hendersons. But other than that,
I loved it.
Yeah. But other than that, it's a bit odd. but that's fine. It's not enough to have a real issue. It just looked a bit weird. Rawr, comes running out of the
jeez.
bushes. Just a bit strange. Anyway, but very good. And so no, I am enjoying it, and it does look good, and it does sound good.
Yes.
I can't say I've picked out any particular scenes other than what we briefly already talked about.
Right.
But yeah, it is good. It is good. Not quite to Ahsoka levels yet, but plenty of time for that in terms of the audio and the video on that. I still think is the best.
Yeah, I think the home theater experience is enhancing, but it's not something that you'd be like, oh my God, run out and see this for your home theater. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's enhancing, and it's definitely not distracting. It's not like done poorly, so you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely a good, really good home theater experience. I'm really loving the story. Who knows what we get later? I mean, there were some bass rumbles. I felt there were some. I mean, for a stream, I think it's done very, very well. So,
do you get the impression with this? I mean, they might just be getting better at it, but I don't know. I got the impression that this is a much more practical set than some of the others. I didn't get that there's much volume use in this. It seemed to be much more practical. So, which again would fit in with the 70s Kung Fu movie aesthetic, which is we build these things so they can be interacted with. I didn't sense a lot of scene extension going on in this.
No.
And again, obviously I've been rewatching them all recently on 4K disc, so of course I'm maybe a little bit more ready for this stuff, but it did seem much more practical to me. It looked that way, or there's another leap ahead with the volume.
With the volume, that's what I was going to say. It's like that's an interesting point, because a lot of the sets are confined, which is to the point of that's the idea of the Kung Fu and stuff. You don't want to be in a big open space. It's they're battling here.
Yeah, you need stuff that's breakable.
Yeah, and Paul saying in the chat, go ahead.
Yeah, so he says, so from a technical point of view, I love the classic look of this show. Yeah, Paul mentioned earlier in the chat about how there's grain and there is some texture to the image that you don't need in modern filmmaking, but they've done. So again, maybe there is a deliberate harking back to Shaw Brothers movies of the past, and that's the way this is going to play out. I hope so. I hope they don't forget that. I hope this is the whole reason for this show to exist, is to give us this kind of old school thing, which those of us who were Star Wars fans and have been forever grew up with these Kung Fu movies, and to have the two mixed together is a really cool idea.
Yeah.
And of course, we think Star Wars itself came from, Akira Kurosawa and these kind of samurai movies of old. To then have it come full circle back to Asian influence. I mean, obviously, Kung Fu is Chinese, but for it to come back to Asian influence and martial arts influence is interesting in and of itself. And we would get that because we grew up with these things. So it's very cool.
Martial arts is a discipline. It's like, I mean, most of what you learn is it's the discipline, to be disciplined, to do all, and that's like the definition of a Jedi, right? It's the discipline. It's it is really cool. I felt after 2 episodes, this is kind of a resetting of Star Wars, like a rejuvenation, if you take to it. I feel like the people that are negative on it, and I haven't seen a lot of it, I'm just going by what I've heard from you and it's you and John in the chat. I'm like, I don't read that stuff. I just hear it from you guys. But I feel like the negativity is people wanting it to stay the same. And that's not how you rejuvenate something. You don't bring back the same old and go, here you go. Yeah, I said I didn't want that anymore. Don't bring me the same thing again. So I'm hoping that's what we can get out of this. So, and I do thinking about your question there about like, is it set pieces? Is it the volume? And some of those scenes, I'm thinking, like, especially like the opening scene, that feels like it had to be the volume, even though it's a confined space, but it's multiple levels. It's this and that. There's a lot going on there where you are extending the scene out. And it would be interesting to see how they did that, because I would imagine that the volume is advancing with every day, year, the episode, every series that goes by. They're improving on it.
I just wonder whether they've improved on it to the point where they've decided actually we don't need it for some things, and actually this is
Maybe.
is a physical show harking back to an era. And if stuff has to, because the volume is always in the background, that's what it has to be. By definition, it
literally.
can't come into the foreground. Well, exactly.
Right.
It can't come into the foreground because it doesn't exist. So you can't
Right.
interact with the volume. It's just a backdrop, background.
Right.
Whereas this series, certainly the opening anyway, and again, I've only seen it once, and I've seen a lot of stuff since, but the opening where everything is breaking and destructible and people are going into and out of it, the volume wouldn't really work for that. And so I wonder whether
Unless they combine the two.
Well, that's your
right?
thing, whether they
And
use
that's-
just digital backdrops. Yeah, which is
Do
possible.
we use? Yeah. Because
Yeah.
the
And
idea
maybe.
of the volume is that the actors, like, it can move. You have a confined space to work in as an actor and a filmmaker, but the volume, like, you can actually pivot, and you're not pivoting. Nothing's, but the background is actually moving. So it could actually make stunts and choreography even a little easier, because now instead of the person pivoting and doing these things, you're actually doing it for them, and it could give that sense of stability to a character that doesn't have to pivot, but actually is. There's a lot of things you can do with it, but then when you add in practical effects in front of that, which I could totally see, like, Filoni and Favreau doing, like, just totally advancing the technical aspect of all this, and which is pretty much what they've set out to do, and have done well at it too. So yeah, it
would be interesting to see the making of and stuff of this, but I'm curious to see where it goes. Anyone know how many episodes it's going to be?
I think it's 8, if I
Is it
remember
8?
right. I think so, if I
So it's
remember
like mini
right.
series. Well,
I think
they're all
because it
mini
goes
series,
right
aren't they?
through. Yeah, it goes right through to July. I know that, and it happens. Yeah, I looked it up. I think it's 8. I'm pretty sure it's 8. So.
Okay, well, that's all right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see where it goes. And of course, we know that there is something coming because it's in the trailers. And so, it's going to be interesting to see kind of where it goes.
I'm more interested to see how we go, because we'll talk about it every week, and like on all these Star Wars shows, it's like, all right, well, I don't like the way it's going this way, and you don't like last, I think was I think Ahsoka, you were just so amazed at like the home theater stuff, and I'm like, where you been? I think they're all pretty good, and I'm like, this one is better, but I'm like, what the heck? And but then we got to get John back. Hopefully he's coming back soon, because we need votes here, because it's we either go 50,
but it is interesting how we've had different responses to the different shows,
different episodes.
Well, exactly. I mean, Ahsoka I love because of the just how good it looked and sounded. And it seemed to me to be a jump above. I mean, I can't, but having gone back now and rewatched Mandalorian season 1 and 2, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and now going through Andor on disc rather than streaming, I'm finding new stuff to enjoy in them because of the better quality experience. So, and again, anything that can get me enjoying Andor has got to be a good thing, because it's not normally my thing. Yeah. So there we go. So 8.
Steve in the chat saying 8. So
good stuff. So it's very cool. Again, when we were kids, someone had said to you there'll be Star Wars TV shows, and you'll have a couple a year, and you'll have all these different. You'd have just been like, no way. And so and yet we're lucky to get it when we're still relatively young enough to enjoy it.
What's Star Wars?
I mean, name something else, Deej, that is nearly 50 years old, that still has the pop culture penetration that Star Wars does. I mean, Star Trek is not the same in terms of its
Trekkies are going to kill us, but no,
I know. I'm safe here. I think I'll lock the doors.
Yeah, it's like,
but it's not.
John loves both,
nothing else.
But
Is there?
I think John would even say that it's Star Wars just has attraction that others, nothing else is like. I mean, you can't think of anything that's nothing.
No, I mean, Godzilla's having its resurgence, but that's not to the level of Star Wars in terms of the shows and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a genre, an IP, to go back to that, in and of itself, isn't it? And that doesn't mean Star Trek's not good. We're not saying Star Trek's not good. Well,
but
we're not saying that.
Especially for us and the way we view it, meaning us as in the home theater community, all the people we interact with, it's more than a movie. It's also what started, like, basically Dolby Surround and we all know, it's like it changed movie going. It did all of these things. Jurassic Park did it to a degree too, but unfortunately that came second. So we all, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Jurassic Park did it like a little over 10 years later, 15 years later, but it's the second one to do it, right? Like, this was the one to change movie going. It would change movie purchasing from the theater. Like, hey, you got to do it this way if you want to get this cut of it, and you got to do this. And then the marketing of it, the toy market. I mean, it spanned so many genres, right? Just the way it was delivered to us. And then you get into the storytelling of like, we're getting chapter 4 first, and you don't know. And it's like, I am your father. You're like, what the hell? And there's no internet. And it's like 3 years later, you're like, no, that's true. Wow. Okay. Because like a bad guy, he's lying. That's what I mean, there's so much to go here and all of that stuff has been handed down. My kids know those stories, right? We all handed it down if you're into it. So what else is there that could have had that much? Maybe books, maybe like if you went back to like any of the books that are now being made into movies, you could say, but not like this to this level of this.
Not 50
global
years
phenomenon.
Worth. Yeah, well, exactly that. I think it's in a league of one. I really do. Yeah. It's just not to have that impact the way it does, and still is doing, is pretty incredible. But anyway, everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But it is just fascinating how it's changed everything. And again, 50 years later, we're still talking about it and still getting excited about new stuff in that world. And that's something Star Trek hasn't gone near. Whatever you say about quality, Stargate, as Rich says, nothing has come close to it in terms of its ongoing cultural impact.
Right.
And it's had its peaks and troughs, it's had its successes and it's had its failures, but it's not stopped.
No.
And you can't even say Lucas is the only one, because Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones. I mean, look at last year's one. As much as we like the Dial of Density, there were a lot of people didn't like it. It was a box office failure. It didn't, and the one before that, Crystal Skull, same thing, So it's not just Lucas. Not even Spielberg can make something that has this ongoing cultural impact with lots of different directors as well. So it's incredible, but very cool.
Yep. Glad we have more and more coming. So.
Oh yeah.
All right.
It's not stopping.
Nope. This train ain't a stop. All right. We wrap up on that. Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
Flew by again. Damn.
I don't know where it goes. Yeah. I wish I knew where this time went.
I know. Chat's still going crazy, going strong. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you, Patreon supporters, and everybody like, Steve at buying t-shirt, anybody buying t-shirts. Thank you very much. Spreading the word, getting our name out there. So, yeah. Anything else?
And again, TeePublic and on the website.
Yeah, all the links are in the show notes, every show notes, or in also the, like you said, go to the website, brightsidehometheater.com, click merch. But it's on all the shows are on the website too. So just click any of those. So cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Stuff.
We out of here. Everybody knows what you got to do.
Go push play.
What he said.
That is right.
Hey, Fred.
This has been a Hey Fred production with theme music by Jeff Bernhardt and Throne Vault Productions.